The guest of honor has arrived.
Oh, stop.
He wants you to say a few words.
No, I won't say another word. Who are you? Who are you? How dare you?
Dolly, Muzzle Tough, happy birthday.
Thank you.
What we want to do is get a little history, a little family history. I'd look back as far as you can, and I'd like you to tell me, first of all, I want to know about your mother and father. Tell me their names.
Tell you what?
I want to know your mother and father's name, and then I want to know what you remember most about each one of your parents. Tell me father first.
My father?
What was his name?
My father was a very aggressive person. And
What was his name?
Morris Levy.
Can you describe him? Was he a tall man or short?
He was tall, handsome. Looked a lot. Marvin reminds me a lot of my father. Marvin's type.
What kind of a personality did he have?
Just like Marvin.
Just like Marvin.
Just like Marvin. He used to yell, but underneath it all, he had wonderful friends, racial friends. They wrote a book. They came to my father. My father spoke Hebrew fluently in those days that I could remember. Always entertained rabbis, lawyers. He associated, he always picked the finest and the cleverest people.
What did your father do for
He was
relaxation?
he was in a lot of business.
Various businesses?
Yeah, and he had 6 sons. We had 6 sons.
How did he spend his free time?
No, that I don't remember because he was busy. And my mother had a child every year,
What was your mother's name?
Sarah.
What do you remember most about your mother?
Well, unfortunately, I was 12 years when my mother passed away. And I remember her as a kind, good mother, but that's it. She was taken away too quick. She was operated on, and before I knew it, I didn't have a mother.
What were you like as a youngster growing up? Go back as you can. What's the earliest memory that you have?
Well, I was always considered, I don't know what to say about myself. I was always considered very lucky. I always felt that way because I always had friends, boyfriends. And I had 2 boyfriends. And my father chose Frank Goldblatt. He says, you marry Frank, you'll be happy for the rest of your life. He'll be a good provider because he's a smart businessman.
What did you used to do during the summers when you were a little girl growing up?
Well,
Do you
we
remember
took care of our home. There was 5 under me. There was my sister Gertie, Heidi, Frida, Jackie. We took care of them because my mother died. We were, as I said, very young. And we had to take care of my sisters, my brother.
So you didn't go golfing in the summertime?
No, I never knew golf existed. And in the summertime, we used to go to the beach maybe once a week. And in the car, we always had an old jalopy. In fact, I had a horse and wagon, a buggy. Somebody owed my father money, so they gave him a horse and buggy. And I remember going around the block a few times. But other than that, I don't remember much.
Where was that you lived? You remember the house?
Yes,
that you
Park
grew
and
up
Colbert Street, 213 Park Street North. Still there.
in? Do you remember the first time that you met Frank?
Well, we've known the Goldblatts when we first came to Hamilton. My father met him. And 2 of my brother married 2 sisters, and they were connected with the Tackman and Goldblatt.
Okay. Do you remember your first?
Oh God, it was during the First World War.
Remember that?
And there were a few Jewish boys who were stationed here. And we used to have them come to the house and give them a meal. Remember.
How did you get engaged?
Pardon?
How did you get engaged?
Well, I went with Frank for 5 years. I was 16 when I went with him.
When did he ask you? When did he ask you to marry him?
Still,
Okay.
I don't remember.
That's women's lib. That's early women's lib.
Maybe I asked him because Frank had an older sister and a brother, so he had to wait till they got married.
And where did you get married?
at the arcade in Hamilton.
The
The arcade. You remember the
No, where was that?
on James Street North where Teeth and Company is?
Oh. Tell me about your wedding day.
Well,
What
I had
was it
the
like?
biggest wedding. 5 rabbis married me.
Oh my.
Had the biggest wedding.
And where did you
And
go
we-
on your honeymoon?
Oy, please. With my father-in-law. Frank had a meeting. We were married on a Thursday, and Frank had a Sunday. Frank gets a call. My father-in-law's in Niagara Falls, has a business deal in Buffalo, so we had to leave Niagara Falls. He had to leave Niagara Falls, and we met him in Buffalo. So from Hamilton, we went to Buffalo. I was supposed to go to New York, but we never made it.
You never got
Never
to
made it to New York honeymoon, because it was a big deal.
Oh well, okay.
Yeah.
No.
What else? It'll sound terrible.
Speaking of big deals, that brings us to Marvin, your eldest. Tell me about Marvin as a youngster growing up.
Well, Marvin was a very, what do I say, very quiet.
What?
Yeah.
I'm asking you about Marvin.
Marvin, he was very quiet. He always loved dogs. He always had a dog. He always sat home, read books.
He wasn't a troublemaker.
No, never had no trouble. When he had his appendix on, so Dr. Paikin, I called him, I didn't know. And then I hear him screwing all the nurses. Do you want to? Don't put that
I
there.
won't.
That's all I can remember, but honestly.
Oh.
Marvin, where are you?
Now, tell me about Abby. Tell me about
Bubby was the sweetest boy. He said he'll never get married because there's nobody like his mother. So thank God he met Barbara and he married her. And they're very happy.
Tell me about Sori. What was she like?
Well,
as a
Sori
youngster?
was our only daughter, naturally, and nobody was good enough for her, no matter who she went with. But thank God she picked poor Phil. He did long.
Do you remember the days when
Oy vey.
when you and Frank and Marvin and Abby and Sori were home? What was a Friday night Shabbos dinner like
Beautiful.
when your family was together?
Beautiful.
What do you remember about those?
Always had a Friday. We always observed. I always had bench candles, and Marvin always served the wine and the drinks at the table, for Friday night. And my husband always made kid. And it was a real Jewish atmosphere, I thought. As Jewish as I could, as I knew to make it. We always, benched after, washed our hands before we ate. And a lot of the old traditions was carried on.
And as time went on, how did you spend your free time? What did you do for excitement and for,
For
holidays?
excitement, well, when
and
I got married, I was very young. I had 3 children and a miscarriage of 5 years. And I was busy. I always, I had a big home, and I loved my home, and I was busy with my children, my family, and then Frank had family, and I had family, and I always tried to be with them as much as I could. And that was my life, my family and his family. And then I worked for Hadassah. I was president. I was president of the Sisterhood of Beth Jacob for many years. Of the Youth Aliyah. I was one of the first who gave $360 to save a child. That time they were bringing them over. And I always try to do a little bit of charity work and, work as much as I can.
I'm interested in if you have any interesting stories that you can remember about your kids as they were growing up. A Marvin story or an Abby story.
Well,
or
I was
Sori.
very lucky. I really don't remember. They were never in trouble, thank God. And we didn't know about pot smoking or anything like that. That never existed. At least we didn't know about it, thank God. Lucky in that era, there wasn't that fear that we have today.
And how did you and Frank spend your vacations? Where did you go?
Yes,
What do you
well,
remember
Frank
about
was a hard worker, and then he what do I say? He got us. And every time Frank had an attack, we had to get away because he carried the whole business. Tackman and Goldblatt. It was originally. And then it was called International, well, what was it called? I forget called it before they called it Metco. And Frank was always busy, and then his father, he respected his father, and he was always concerned about his family.
How about holidays? What did you go on
Yes.
holidays? What did you
We
like
went
to do? What's the best holiday?
Well,
you remember?
we had a summer home at the beach for years with the children. Then I sent the children to camp when camp was first known. And then we always went like to Grossinger's or to the Concord. Yeah, we always managed to get away. And then we went to Europe 5 or 6 times, went to Israel 3 times. 3 or 4 times was in Israel with every time of the Lil. And we managed. Frank had friends all over. We had very good friends. I still have a friend. She's a lawyer and he's a lawyer. Live in Milwaukee. We still keep in touch with each other. And they come every summer when my kids went to camp. They used to come down, and we didn't have air conditioning, so we used to take them to a burlesque show in Toronto to get cooled down. That's the way we spent. But they used to come and spend a week or 2 here. So where would you get cooled off? We didn't know about air conditioning.
What else but a burlesque?
So Frank used to arrange, we should get good seats and watch a burlesque show. That's the way we spend our holidays. But we did a lot of traveling because I felt we.
And how do you spend your time now?
Well, now I'm concerned about my family, and I'm just 3 sisters now. And unfortunately, my 2 sisters are widowed, and my daughter is widowed, and my time is with them.
So you keep yourself busy.
Yes, I never get bored.
You look
I
great.
enjoy television. I can't read because I have a little trouble with my eyes, you know. And I watch television, soap operas, and I walk. I used to walk 5-6 miles a day yes. There used to be a gang of us right here in Hamilton. Drove by car, and parked it out still, and then walked all the way to Dundas. And we did that for years. I used to make it 5-6 miles.
That's why you're in such good shape now.
I don't know.
That's terrific.
'Cause I'm just one of the lucky ones.
Well, muzzle tough to you. The
Thank
big
you.
party. The gang's just arriving now.
Thank
So
you.
let's go outside and see who's here.
I don't think I can walk the stairs.
Yes, you can. We'll see you outside.
Yeah.
If you are a mother young and
Come here.
yes,
Don't
to be young and hard. And if you survive to 100, think of you on the color
My favorite dollar.
Joseph,
Tell him I
well,
was
Dolly
skiing.
is my best friend, the best I've got. May she have many, many more years.
Thank you.
Happy
Thank,
birthday.
thank you.
Well, it must be pretty dull around the tennis club now then. It must be. It's the coaching. Close your udder.
Ta-da! I'm here! Ah! Well,
Order a drink there. Just grab a drink there.
We'd like to see Bubby first.
Well, here I am.
You look good, bud.
How are you?
That's all you can just do a party, eh? Roy, Ron.
Don't fall in the pool. Don't you fall in the pool.
There's a squash here if you want. I'm trying to get rid of it. Or Barbara will make it today.
Hi, Mark. Mike, how are you? Good day. Good. Excuse me, let me just give this.
How are you? Uh-oh. Here comes the heavily dressed guy.
How you doing?
Okay, good.
So anyway,
So he runs there.
Whoever she can talk to on the way.
Oh, yeah, okay. Better turn around, smile.
I can't. Hi, I know
You
I
look
hate to
nice.
do this for
You
my
look
wedding. I
pretty.
hate doing it for now, but I know it's worth it. Mommy,
Look pretty.
Mommy,
doesn't
what are
she?
you gonna do? No, don't tell them that you know what.
Yeah.
It's not gonna rain. We're gonna go inside for a rain. It's not raining, is it?
Not gonna rain.
Looks ominous.
Laden with happiness. Sunrise. Laden with
Larry, you remember cousin Stanley? Stanley, you probably haven't seen Stanley for quite a while. This is our middle daughter, Lori.
Look at that sexy ride.
This is my only daughter.
Whose birthday is it? Oh, you gotta read the card. There you go. Now you got something to pass around tonight. That's good. How are you, Maggie?
It won't be much, you know that.
It's not raining.
Oh, darn.
I knew you had too many going here.
Right under here is perfect. It's perfect.
Fold it up. I don't know if they need to turn it off.
Oh, yes. That's all I heard all my life. That's why I was that how I was. I believe that one. But I used
She loved me.
I don't know.
You remember when we were in Paris many years ago, and we're walking along right near the Ritz Hotel in Paris, and a guy comes up to me and he says, "Do you want to change money?" He says, "Bullshit." Make a long story short, he says to me in Jewish, "Landsman," I took him at his word, and I only had $200 American. We changed it in for French francs. We had lunch at the Ritz Hotel. Dad wanted to pick up the check. I says, "Dad, it's on me. I made such a fantastic deal." The bill comes. I go to check the money, and I find out that from the $200, all I have is $50. Dad laughed and picked up the check. What happened was the guy folded the money, and I got stung. And Dad said, "You see, you're not as smart as you thought you were."
We're the wrong side of the family. Go the other side.
40 years then.
Hi, I'm Wendy. Okay, this is a story of Marvin told me this on the weekend. When he was a kid, I don't know how old, he did something really bad, and he ran up a tree in the backyard to Hoppy. And she told him if he came down the tree, she wouldn't punish him. So he came down the tree, and she beat the shit out of him. Okay, I'm sure that story's not true, by the way, because I can't imagine Bubby ever doing something like that. I have another story. I interviewed a couple of years ago on tape, and I said to her, what was everybody like in those days? So she was telling me about the family and the characters. So I said, what was Jacob like? And she told me, great, you know. What was Dee like? Wonderful, sense of humor, blah. I said, what were you like, Bubby? She said, I was a bitch.
Who was a bitch?
Bubby, she said that about it was great.
Daddy,
Okay, that's all for now.
when you came down the tree.
Bye.
Grandmother, a toast to our grandmother, the most beautiful, bright, 90-year-old lady, and I'm exactly like her, Bubby. Here, to Bubby.
Where are your tits?
Dear Sister Dolly, I've known you all my life, and I loved you all my life. What else? Oh, I just rushed home from Corinne's PhD and walked up here to celebrate with your family and dear ones. May God grant you many years of good health and happiness together with yours and yours. What else could I say? It's from the bottom of my heart. I love you.
I saw water mine already.
Don't look at don't Oh my this is a thought of your grandmother. Bubby, are we gonna just die here? Which day? You are which day? Okay. Bubby, thank you. Now you sign it. Janet, let me see your eyes. Jay! Okay, good. Janet, I can say, got to go.
Wait a minute, that's so you better think what you're writing.
I told you were the favorite. I didn't write this part.
I think we should do puzzles something special about
I have to tell the story one more time, just one more time. First of all, I never knew the meaning of shtickdreck. I always thought it was like, you know, an endearment. And then I found out that you were calling me all those years wasn't an endearment. But one day I was to golf, and I see my mother standing at Longwood and Maine, and I stopped the car, and I said, Mom, what are you waiting for? And she said, I'm waiting for Dolly to pick me up. I'm golfing with Dolly. I said, oh, that's great. She said, who are you golfing with? I said, I'm picking up Sorry. Oh. So she said, oh, that's nice, dear. We'll have a good time. My mother is picked up by Dolly a few minutes later. And for conversation, my mother says, I just saw Barbara. So Dolly says, yeah, where's she going? She says, she's out on her way to the golf course. She says, I can't believe it. She couldn't wait to have her children the shtickdreck, and then she's running out, and she leaves her kids all the time to play golf. And my mother says, well, she was picking up Sorry. Oh, I'm so glad that Sorry is going to play golf. And my mother turned to you and said, if that wasn't so funny, I'd really be angry. I hope you remember that, Mom, because we'll all remember that. That wasn't a joke. That was the truth. Love you, Mom.
Okay. Hello, Dolly. I'm very to be at your party, your birthday party, and somebody asked me if I was the older sister, so I can't talk anymore. I was hurt so badly.
Dolly, it was a pleasure to be here today to celebrate with you. But it's when I got you in Florida alone and take you out Friday night for dinner. I got you to myself.
She loved it.
And you don't have to share her.
No intruders, eh?
God bless you, and many more years.
Where's your
It's much easier to stand the river.